Let's hear from Honorable Kirwa. I want us not to really dwell on this particular subject. I think we've crossed that junction. But well, looking at what we have on the front page, or not really on the front page, on page 6, powerful people in Jubilee plan to grab new KCC assets. This is from your coalition leader. They have ripped off the National Treasury. They aren't interested in what the citizens receive. And it says that NASA presidential candidate Raila Odinga yesterday accused some powerful personalities in the Jubilee administration of planning to grab the new Kenya Cooperative Creameries assets, among them also prime land. We know who maybe, who have also interest in the milk business, the dairy business. So well, this sentiment coming from your leader, how will you react to that?
Well, I think, let me not get into the speculation aspect of it. But just say this, for us, KCC, both as a farmer and also as member of the coalition, NASA.
And you being also the former Minister
for Agriculture.
Yes.
And he was my assistant minister.
Ah, and fantastic.
And we served the country very well.
So we have the institutional memory of what is happening in KCC.
And our ministry was #1 because at times Alice doesn't believe that we performed in the past. So it was #1. Now, but what is important is...
I don't know why he has singled me out and I haven't said no.
With a light touch.
I think it's with a light touch.
Yes, of course, I'm inviting you to this conversation because we strongly believe KCC is an integral component of transforming our economic empowerment through the cooperative subsector. I say this because we do appreciate Brookside and other companies that are now dominating the market. But if there is a way we can benefit our farmers, we must exploit the possibility of the entire chain, the value chain, from producer price, which is about 31 shillings to a litre, to the consumer price, which is about 100 shillings to a litre. And therefore, there are 69 shillings in between. And that 69 shillings, apart from processing, handling, marketing, packaging, there is some money that is residual that usually is termed as profit. In the past, that used to go to the farmer in terms of what they were calling bonuses for tea or what they were calling dividends for KCC farmers. And we strongly believe that if KCC has a challenge, we must restructure it and also reflect the realities of the day. Why? It is because the economy of this country is increasingly shifting into a few arms of multinationals and other companies within the country, and we are leaving the bulk of our people impoverished because the economic growth we are talking about is in the hands of few entities, and we're likely to run the risk of the world where 52 of all the richest entities are multinationals and 48 are countries. So my take is KCC is something that is so important to the farming community of Kenya. And of course, there are individuals who believe that we should go the Brookside way, we should go the private enterprise way, forgetting that also the cooperative movement is a private enterprise that collectively brings many Kenyans together for purposes of ensuring they share the benefits of economic growth.
All right. Yes. Let's hear from Dr. Shemo Chodho. Will come to you, sir.
Debal, I would be lying to claim to be an expert in the livestock, dairy sectors, and so on. But suffice it to say is that, yes, the entire value chain has to be looked at and made more efficient and more responsive if it can play a role in bridging the inequity gap, because we have a big problem in terms of how equitable or not equitable we are as a society. In fact, I'm reminded of a time when Honorable Kirwa talks of multinationals. A former powerful permanent secretary said, what's wrong if 70% of the companies listed at the Nairobi Stock Exchange are foreign-owned? And I said, what? Did I hear right? We don't see anything wrong when we are saying at the Nairobi Stock Exchange, the companies, as Kenyans, we only own 30%. But again, in terms of culpability, if we are talking of acquiring new KCC. The trouble, in my view, with the minority coalition, there are times they make claims, we don't follow them through. They need to be concrete. Why not take them to court if we know there are issues like this that are coming up? In the past, we've had issues of Kenya Railway, properties, assets. being acquired, and that applies to both coalitions, the molasses plant, and others. So there have been these issues of culpability, but it would be good if they are followed to final conclusion. But again, having said that, it would not be right just to make statements without substantiating, because then you're casting aspersions because you're hurting some people. But it's true, if there is some grain of truth, let it come out and be prosecuted. I think that's what I would say.
All right. So you think there's any kernel of truth with this particular allegation?
I really, other than what you have displayed there, I want to confess that I also don't have any details regarding those allegations. But I would possibly just respond as Jubilee. Or because we, as Kenyans, we have put in systems that can follow and can stop theft. The minority coalition leader is in a very good position to actually put facts together, either go to court or even forward them to relevant institutions and say, look, and like I would be happy to see that this statement in the paper now was preceded by proper action in terms of what he is saying. But of course he has, and with great respect, he has made very many statements that are never factual, are never followed. Even if they are factual, are never followed with action. So they are meant to be, they are meant to give political mileage to his coalition. And therefore, for me, I just want to leave it at that. And I think we, as Kenyans, we need to be responsible in terms of how we handle information, particularly this particular time, when we are going to elections.
Okay. Well, the most consternating thing also is the fact that we know that Kenya in Africa is leading in dairy production. I don't know what metric tons we're talking about, even 52 metric tons annually.
But before we go to the metric tons,
yes,
I think it's good to exhaust that headline there.
Yes.
It's that banner headline. And I think it's, I take the position myself that that kind of headline is, it's a very, very unfortunate. And I would also use the word reckless.
It's reckless?
Reckless.
Right.
Because when you say powerful people in Jubilee, what has Jubilee got to do with this? You see, Jubilee is made up of individuals, right? And if there are people out there to grab the new KCC assets, there are people with names and ID card numbers.
Yes.
And that's exactly what we are talking about institutions. There are institutions that need to pursue these people and name them and tell us it's so and so, and this is what they're trying to do. I think it's reckless for anybody to make that kind of statement without even trying to, as it were, justify it or show who it is. For me, it's just political propaganda, but it's coming at the wrong time because it could create despondency, it creates suspicion, it creates animosity, and it's not good.
Incitement.
It's not good for our country at this time, and that is why I look. If you look at a statement like that,
but in light
if you allow me to finish,
yes.
You see, they say they have ripped off the national treasury. They aren't interested in people's interests, citizens' interests. I mean, sometimes I wonder what institutions like the one headed by Honorable Kaparo are doing.
Yeah.
Because if this is not hate speech, I don't know what hate speech is. I'm not trying to condone any acts of stealing or misappropriation. But when you make statements like this, what message are you sending? What message are you sending to the people of Kenya? What are you telling them about the individuals in Jubilee that you're not naming? If you want to campaign, come out with facts and figures. If you want to talk about SGR, come out with facts and figures, put them on the table, let the Kenyans know what you're talking about, but making careless and sometimes reckless statements, this is what foments, despondency, hatred amongst people, and it could even bring, the things that you're trying to preach against at this time of elections. So I think even the leadership, like the leader of the NASA, I think it would be prudent to not make certain statements at a moment like this if you're trying to create national cohesion. And I think this is the time that we need to hear Honorable Kaparo more and more in his cohesion, whatever it's called. We need to hear more of him more, talking about national cohesion, talking about peace and security.
But already we have a challenge.
Talking about the things that are going to bring us together. Elections are going to come and they're going to go. On 9th of September, we shall have a president in this country. But whatever happens, Kenya shall still be one nation and has to be one nation. So you don't want people being careless and reckless at this time because we don't know what the intentions are. And I think, yes, I think the relevant institutions, the ones we were discussing earlier when we were discussing Chapter 6 of the Constitution,
yes,
should be heard more at this time, not making wild statements, but telling us how they propose to deal with institutions like this.
Right. I'll be remiss if I don't really ask you, because both of you now sat in the 10th Parliament, and the issue of dairy production also was big. I remember we were wading through milk because we didn't have any coolants in the country, and we had a lot more, I should say, metric tons of milk just going down the tubes because we didn't have any coolants in the country. Since then and now, why are we still none the wiser that even a Kenyan should actually be paying more than 50 shillings for a packet of milk? It was way up to 70 shillings. We being the leading country in production of milk in Africa, why should we be paying higher? This is an oxymoron, don't you think?
Well, I think it's a question of balance between production and consumption, in the sense that I remember the three ministries, Minister of Finance, Minister of Agriculture, and the Office of the President. We had gone beyond just strategic grain reserves. We were thinking of strategic food reserves, in the sense that during periods of glut, we do some kind of preservation. We turn it into powder, and therefore at the time there is drought, we reconstitute and we offload to the market. And as you know, our milk at times goes all the way to Zambia whenever there is a glut in terms of production. But because of lack of coordination in terms of food security, this challenge does come when there is overproduction. A lot of it goes to waste. And when there is drought, because many of our activities in farming are still rain-fed, both in terms of livestock and crops. So we always run the risk of just a seesawing. Periods of drought, we go down. Periods of overproduction, we have a lot of it. I remember in the past, KCC used to offer even premium prices during periods of drought, like between January and March in the North Rift, so that farmers are encouraged to produce more and ensure that there is sustainable food production at certain levels. But those are some of the things that we are looking at as NASA in terms of our policy platform, what we do as we move ahead. And I think this is a debate that we should engage nationally. It is not for NASA or Jubilee alone. It is a serious problem that food security in Kenya actually is equal to national security, because the moment you cannot produce enough food, then you run the risk of destroying the social fabric of our nation. As to whether the statements were made in Nandi are reckless, well, Mheshimiwa Raila has made statements in the past, and they have come to pass that yes, there were seen to be allegations, but the allegations were confirmed by the investigating institutions, and some of them are still very alive in our memory. And therefore, I do not need really to repeat that. But of course, I did not have the benefit of attending the function, but we know that KCC is under threat, whether from individuals in Jubilee or somewhere, is really a question that there are some profiteers within our nation who strongly believe this cooperative movement must be curtailed from existence for purposes of just shifting to totally private individuals owning the outfit, and of course taking advantage of pieces of land like the one in Dondora and many other parts of this country.
All right, so is there a deliberate attempt to make sure that maybe some of these parastatals like KCC, we know Kenya Airways as well has been going through the same rigors of, shake-up with the management and the cash flow within the system as well?
Well, I don't want to speculate, but you see, typically KCC, it is only that the ownership has not been unraveled. Otherwise, it's not a parastatal per se. It can only qualify to be parastatal.
So why is the ownership a mystery? Why is the ownership a mystery?
No, it's a mystery because you see, KCC, when it was started in 1938 in Kenya, it was a farmer's outfit, just like the bilateral board. But over the period, the government came in to bail it out from one problem or the other. And at some stage, the government was excited in getting involved in the management of the public affairs. and therefore inject a certain amount of resources in KCC and the director in KCC, and it was seen to be quasi-government institution. But typically, it is an institution belonging to the farmers. The second issue that clouded the ownership of KCC is that when parcels of land were sold, the 1 million acres in Nyandarua, and the so many other acres in Trans Nzoia, Uasin-Gishu, and other parts which were seen to be wetlands domain, the Mzungu sold a piece of land to those individuals, whether they were Guataniro, whether they were Nyakinywa, whether were private companies, but the ownership of KCC by the Mzungu who owned the land was not effectively transferred to the new owners of the land, because the new owners came and got new numbers because each farmer wanted to be a supplier. So the ownership that was dominant previously became dormant, and therefore KCC still remained as farmers' institution, but with some ownership that was not clearly designated. So these are some of the challenges that KCC has suffered. Then now the mismanagement through government appointees, know this Jubilee administration in the past. So that happened over the period, and KCC went until the government thought they owned it. Later on, we took it back, 2003, during Kibaki administration, and we tried to revamp it. And we expected that revamping of KCC would continue and the ownership taken back to the farmers of the day.
So let's say from Honorable...
Yeah, from the premise of a consumer, where the majority of Kenyans fall, milk is a key ingredient in our menu. I read somewhere that the prices of milk have gone down 10 shillings. Yes. I'm hoping that's true, because that would be the right way to go. If it can come further down, because Kenyans are overburdened in terms of meeting the cost of essentials, particularly essential foods. Secondly, I wanted to concur with Honorable Kirwa that yes, the former Right Honorable Prime Minister has made claims in the past which have come to be issues. So it wouldn't be fair also just to dismiss a claim. But I think that does not belittle the fact that if there is a significant substantial evidence, there are mechanisms and there are institutions that should get this information to act on it so that we don't sweep it under the carpet. But having said that, finally in this regard, there is the problem of armyworms. I noticed that 18 million or a number of millions bags of crop are going to be lost. For the past 2 months, I've been reading the threat of these armyworms, and I'm wondering, what are our concerned officers? What did they do, or what were they doing, or were they just reading like an ordinary person on the street like myself and not do anything? Because can we afford to lose those millions of bags of grain? I mean, at a time when we're just coming out of famine and drought. I think somebody really needs to take responsibility. I'm hoping mitigation measures were put in place to cushion us from that problem of armyworms.
All right. Alice? I
think to possibly make a small comment regarding the milk industry and, of course, the KCC. You know, Kenyans, individual Kenyans, groups of Kenyans have previously lost properties, including land, through dubious transfers. Of course, many times sponsored and supported by government officers, because any transfers always go through the hands of government officials. Transfer of ownership from one individual, one corporation, one company to another must pass through the government officers. And we must discourage, actually we must jail. And sometimes I think we are lenient on thieves and corrupt individuals in this country. For me, anybody thinking that they can run away with a magnet like KCC, yes, like it had happened before, even KICC, for example, you know, it's you know, the International Conference Center. This kind of people should not even be in public offices. So, and you know, milk as a commodity, as a product, the market is huge, both locally, regionally, and internationally. So it is one thing that, and it is dairy farming is something that Kenyans can do with ease and with little support in terms of knowledge and skills. And so I want to imagine that we must let it remain in the hands of farmers. But you know, it could just be there by name, you know, because finally, where are the dividends? What shares? What do the farmers, who are the owners, get? And their land, of course, has gone away previously. So we need to improve production. We need to make it accessible in terms, the inputs, implements, accessible to farmers easily, and widen the market and go beyond our boundaries, and so it can meet some of the food insecurities.
Even as we're going beyond the boundaries, the question would be then, is it also good to actually let out maybe one particular farm that is going to be, you know, such a mammoth farm, to buy out all other subsidiaries that we have in the country, right? And we head towards a monopoly where we're struggling.
No. I think that is...
Because we've seen a lot of buyouts that are happening with the creameries.
I think it is free market, and it's not possible that we are saying it is one, I mean one
yes,
one
even if
company.
we have free markets, are we headed to a monopoly?
I don't think it is possible to have a monopoly in Kenya anymore. But of course, one company will go or will sell their company to the next, but tomorrow there will be another company. I don't think we are going to have a monopoly.
Let's hear what you have to say yourselves as well. And Usha, Jose, she's standing by. Jose.
Right, got a lot of feedback coming our way. We were discussing a lot of different issues today, so also your tweets are on several different issues. So just getting straight to it. First, our question was, do you think the IEBC is overplaying its hand with Chapter 6 of the Constitution? And we have Kamau Samuel, who says, Chapter 6 will not work for Kenya. Kenyans want thieves, drug peddlers and uneducated people for elective positions. I don't know what the panel would have to say about that. Would anybody want to take that on?
Well, that's a very sweeping statement. Not everybody is a thief. There may be one or two thieves here and there, just like any other nation. It's unfortunate, my brother.
Kenyans have an opportunity. You know, Kenyans are also part of the institutions of vetting. Kenyans have an opportunity every 5 years to actually vet and remove corrupt people and thieves among themselves.
Right.
Notwithstanding poverty.
Okay.
I think they can stand above the bar.
Okay, so Samuel, I hope you have gotten your answer. The way to read this out is through our elections. We also have William Minor, who says no, but I think they are being shortlisted by aspirants with powerful say in government. Now, moving on to Twitter, we have Edson, who says, though the process needs time, it's only fair that it has commenced and we're getting results on integrity questions. Of course, he is talking about the IEBC and locking some candidates out, or their thought of it. We also have Deep Upkeep, who says, all non-individuals who engaged in massive looting spree of taxpayer Kenyan funds have been cleared by IEBC. What's cooking? We also have Cornelius, who says, this parallel tallying center is a cause for worry. IEBC isn't operating in a conducive environment. And Arnold, who says, any person with integrity questions should be barred. The bar should be set high. We should not settle for less. We also have Josephat, who says, finally, we have the reason for chaos if, God forbid, they will happen. Parallel voting centers. And finally, we have Eldwin, who says parallel tallying centers will actually display minimal differences that will eventually cause chaos. So seems like, well, Kenyans are divided on this one. We don't have one side that seems to have more comments or more popularity. Seems Kenyans are divided on this side of the board. Do let us know which side you're on. AMLiveNTV, that is how you get us on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. Back to you, Dibel.
All right. Usha, you forgot also to remind our viewers that, yes, we normally stream on our Facebook page every day. So if you're actually getting out of the house and you want to carry on with the conversation, you can cross over to the Facebook page.
Indeed.
Give us the details. Usha.
Right, so on our Facebook page, that is AMLiveNTV, you can get us when you stream. Also, you can also get us on the NTV Kenya Facebook page, live streaming, so that means you do not have to miss an episode, regardless of whether you cannot be in the house at that time.
All right. Many thanks indeed, Usha, there for that particular feedback, and also thank you for the rush of tweets and also your reactions on the topic that we are discussing this morning. Maybe just to give our panelists our closing remarks as we're winding up 30 seconds each. We start for time. We'll begin with Honorable Kirwa.
Well, it has been a very interesting morning, and the point that we need to focus on is as we go towards the next general election, let us spend more time talking about positive things and also focusing Kenyans on the need for us to cross the bar and move as one country, one united nation, a country that has all the individuals, the winners and the losers. And let us not prescribe any medicine that so-and-so is going to lose or so-and-so is going to win. Those who have gone through elections, they know losing and winning are things that flip after midnight.
Right, thank you. Balozi.
Well, I think, well, time flies. It doesn't look like it's been 2 hours. The issue here, I think, is one of integrity. We discuss integrity at a great length, and I think it's an important word. I think Chapter 6 of the Constitution is very, very important. But I think what's happening now is a challenge in the indictment to the institutions that are supposed to be looking into these issues. And I hope that for the future, as going forward, they are not going to be matters of contention, because it will be so clear-cut that so-and-so does not or should not be cleared to run in elective positions, because that's the only way that we are going to move this nation forward, where we have people of integrity. The problem is, what's going to happen now is that in both houses of parliament and in the governors and also members of the county assembly, you might end up finding a lot of people elected there who fall short on issues of integrity because not enough was done in good time, and we are going to have another 5 years where we keep talking about discussing issues of integrity. The last thing I'd like to say is that, and I've said this before, all of us are looking forward to the 8th of August for the general elections, and the challenge that we have to IEBC after it has dealt with issues of integrity and listing who is going to be on the ballot. Let them assure Kenyans at every opportunity that we are going to have free, fair, and transparent elections, because for me, this is the single most important topic, or should be the most important single topic at this point in time.
Thank you, Balozi. Dr. Shemachogo.
Several commentators have talked about parallel tallying. I'm equally nervous myself, like they are, about what do these parallel tallying systems portend. Perhaps this is another indictment on Parliament, and maybe the next Parliament, the 12th Parliament, should look into some of these issues. It would have helped if there were either regulations or procedures that would say under what circumstances to regulate parallel tallying if and when necessary. Because I see a situation where each side announces their own results. Aren't we precipitating a problem? Maybe the more ideal body to have done parallel tallying would have been, say, the monitors, log and the like. But again, it's a fact that because there is a gray area, there is no law that says what should be done. We are in that problem.
Right, Alice.
I think I want to call upon Kenyans to actually maintain peace and reject despondency. Propaganda, they must discern propaganda early enough and agree not to be dragged into conflicts by political opponents during this particular period of elections and even in future. But I also say that I think it's a question of integrity for Kenyans if they also do not want to assist. You know, they want to raise the bar, but they must be part of the process of cleaning up the country by electing leaders of integrity and reject bribery, reject money during elections. But finally also, that it's also for me a question of integrity for leaders to keep on touting and rubbishing work done by the government, and they are seeking to occupy the same offices and telling Kenyans that it is their idea.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Balozi, Ambassador Giture, thank you for Kembi Giture. Thank you for coming through as the Deputy Speaker of the Senate as well, and Senator of Murang'a. Also, Honorable Kipruto Arap Kirwa, who is the Deputy Leader of the ANC, and also the former Minister of Agriculture. Also, Dr. Shemo Chodho, the Global Leader of Kenya Diaspora Alliance, and also Alice Wahome. Thank you very much for coming through as a Member of Parliament from Kandara. Thank you for your valuable insights, and also thank you for also your valuable company and your reactions also. You've been watching This Is The Point.